They say that the code in the chromosomes is more complex and holds more information than all the computer programs ever written in the history of humanity combined.
Again, this is simply and demonstrably wrong. The 3 billion base pair human genome, which by the way is about 100 times smaller than the amoeba genome, can be stored uncompressed on about 750 megabytes. That's about the size of a CD. That's smaller than Windows XP. Yep, that's right, you can carry a copy of the human genome around on a piece of hardware the size of your thumbnail. Further, to store an individual's genetic identity, you only need to store the differences from the genome. These are typically only a % or 2, so you can store someone's genetic identity in about 10 megabytes. That's about the size of an MP3.
I believe that God designed each one of us for something special, for a purpose.
So you can store someone's genetic identity in about 10 megabytes. That's about the size of an MP3.
I believe that God designed each one of us for something special, for a purpose.
Indeed, this raises the interesting question of where does the information in civilization lie? Clearly not in the DNA, as this can simply be stored on a CD. Indeed, the genome is little more than the instructions for the make human process. Well, what about our brains? Well, assessing human memory is a difficult process, as memory of what? The mind is quite good at remembering faces, but terrible at remembering numbers, something computers are ruthlessly good at. However, the human memory is estimated on the order of terabytes, and that's easily 1,000 times the size of the genome. However, of course, this is limited in that every time someone dies, this information is lost. Until libraries, that was basically the end of it. All you could have access to is what you learned of someone else or could work out for yourself. Stored media has changed everything. Books were a good start, but were unfortunately prone to religious thoughts decreeing that learning was evil and burning down the combined knowledge gained by thousands in the libraries. Fortunately, now media has developed to the point where it's virtually impossible to destroy knowledge, and virtually everyone can have access to that knowledge. The size and growth of knowledge is staggering. For instance, these are merely the graphical abstracts of one bi-weekly peer-reviewed chemistry journal. So what does this knowledge get us? Well, put simply, everything. Every modern-day aspect of your life is based on knowledge. At the simplest level, I can learn how to use a rock to grind wheat and maybe teach someone else how to do it. At a more complex level, I can write a book, and 50 people can read it long after I'm dead, saving each of those the economy of time needed to discover this stuff firsthand. At a more complex level, I can build a machine that will do the work of hundreds of men, but this is peanuts compared to the knee-weakening power this knowledge has brought us. Take, for instance, the transistor, which we can now make on the nanometer length scale.
If you think about it, if you look at the Intel 45 nanometer device technology, we can fit 400 transistors on something about the size of a human blood cell.
So what use is this? Well, humans are quite good at some things, such as associative information storage, but poor at others. People are particularly bad at mathematics. For instance, multiply these two numbers together. If you can do this calculation in a second and had a planet full of such people, all 6 billion of them still wouldn't be able to keep up with a desktop computer. Yep, that's right, I can sit down in front of my computer and have a number crunching power greater than the entire population of the Earth. This sort of labour-saving invention makes the invention of steam power for the Industrial Revolution, a discovery that revolutionised civilization at the time, pale into insignificance. Computers give us access to number crunching and informational indexing power for doing research beyond the dreams of our scientific predecessors. Indeed, the quality of life we enjoy simply wouldn't be possible without the use of computers. This brings us to the Discovery Institute and their latest video. Firstly, you should notice that the words intelligent design are not uttered once in their latest promotional video, and with good reason, after it was ruled in court to not be science and just a rebranding of creationism.
Many scientists disagree about key parts of modern evolutionary theory, such as the ability of natural selection and random mutation to account for the complexity of living systems. What should the public do when experts disagree about whether the evidence supports a theory, as they do in the case of Darwinian evolution? The answer: teach both the arguments for and against.
Absolutely not. The bloody obvious. Research, increasing the knowledge of mankind, is done by people who already have an understanding of what is currently known, the literature, and are smart enough to make a new contribution to the vast knowledge of mankind. It is not done by high school students who haven't even acquired the entry-level standards to understand the conversation that goes on in the academic arena. Controversies settle in the academic arena, not in the classroom. When ideas conflict, they enter the arena, and the contest of peer-review literature begins. It ends when one of the ideas has been brutally and mercilessly intellectually eviscerated by physical evidence and reproducible experiments. Such is the harsh meritocracy of the scientific method. For instance, take cold fusion. Did we teach both sides of the controversy to the students and let them decide? Absolutely not. It was settled in the peer-review literature, and less than 6 months after being proposed, its mangled corpse was swept off the floor of the academic arena. This was the fate of creationism 150 years ago, and all that has changed since is the pseudonym by which creationism masquerades. Science education in schools serves to allow people to function in a technologically advanced civilization, and to allow in the progression of that civilization making all of our lives better. It is not to ignore the academic process that enabled us to gain the vast knowledge of mankind that built our civilization. It serves neither the student nor our collective sophistication to ignore the products of the academic arena and pretend in schools that all opinions, no matter how well or poorly founded in the knowledge of mankind, are equally valid and should be laid before the presently uneducated student for consideration with equal veracity. There is no controversy in the scientific community about evolution, any more than there's a controversy about the earth being hollow, and to pretend otherwise is both disingenuous and dishonest. If you have a problem with that, do like every other idea in history, and present it in the academic arena, or stop being antisocial intellectual vermin, undermining the very process that built everything mankind relies on for survival. This is what gets to me the most. Academics spend their lives trying to further the knowledge of mankind through research, while creationists spend theirs vandalizing the knowledge they consider to be inconsistent with their Bronze Age religious texts. They seek to destroy this hard-earned knowledge at any costs, even attacking the method that is at the very foundation of our civilization.
I want to teach you something very special this morning, and I want you to remember this, boys and girls, something you'll never forget. Has any human being always been there? Yes or no? No. Has any scientist always been there? No. Who's the only one who's always been there? God. Who knows everything? So, in a big loud voice, who should you always trust first, God or the scientist? God. And I want you to remember that.
Creationists force real scientists to come off the front of hard research and perform the largely thankless task of countering the random disinformation sown by delinquent and scientifically illiterate creationists intent on undermining that has uncontestably and fairly been through the trial of fire of the academic arena and withstood the scrutiny of the smartest people on the planet for the past 150 years. I have to take another break to finish up a few papers, but I'll be back.